Hannah always thought she could spot trouble before it found her. She believed danger had a shape to it, a flicker behind the eyes, a stillness that didn't belong in an ordinary moment. For 26 years, that belief let her sleep with the windows cracked and walk home after dark without flinching. Then, on one frozen Tuesday morning in North London, danger knocked on a door wearing gloves, carrying a clipboard, and smiling exactly like a man who only wanted to help. She had built a quiet, comfortable life for herself by then. Most days were spent finishing a PhD that never seemed to end, and most mornings were spent cleaning 2 beautiful houses near Regent's Park to cover the gap her stipend left behind. It wasn't the career she had once imagined for herself, but the pay was good, the hours suited her perfectly, and if she was honest with herself, she actually enjoyed the work. There was something calming about restoring order to other people's chaos, about leaving a house better than she found it. Her landlady was warm and easy to talk to. The neighbor she also cleaned for was the same. Both homes sat on quiet, expensive streets lined with black railings and trimmed hedges, the kind of streets that feel safe in a particular, complacent way. Right up until they aren't. That morning, she had just finished the laundry at the neighbor's house when the doorbell rang downstairs. She almost let it go. Cold callers rang that bell all the time, and technically, it wasn't even her door to answer. But on the small chance it mattered, she went anyway, down the stairs, along the hallway, and opened the front door without a second thought. A man stood on the step. Gloves, a woolen hat, a black snood pulled up around his neck against the cold. None of it looked out of place in the middle of a brutal winter. He held a clipboard and a pen, and he wore the kind of easy, cheerful smile that gets people to lower their guard before they've even decided to. "Morning, love," he said. Just he had to read the meter. It should have meant nothing, except the homeowner always left a note on the kitchen table whenever something like this was expected. A delivery, a worker, a friend dropping something off. It was a small habit, but a deliberate one, meant to keep Hannah from ever feeling caught off guard by a stranger at the door. There was no note that morning, and the absence of it sat wrong in her stomach, even as the man stood there, patient and pleasant, waiting for her to step aside and let him through. She told him she was only the cleaner, and that nobody had mentioned a meter reading. He brushed it off without missing a beat, said it had probably slipped the homeowner's mind, that it would only take a minute, no harm in letting him through to get it over with. It was a reasonable answer, almost convincing, but not quite enough to override the small, insistent voice telling her to be careful. So she asked if she could see some identification. He said he had it, in his van, parked around the corner. It is such a small detail, and yet it's the detail that should have sent her straight for the lock, instead of standing there making polite conversation with a stranger. There was a pause, a strange, charged silence, where he clearly expected her to wave him through anyway, the way most people do, rather than make someone walk back to their car in the freezing cold. Hannah didn't move. She waited for him to go and get it. And that is the exact moment his smile dropped away all at once, like a mask coming off. Because in a way, that's exactly what it was. She started to close the door, slowly, softly. Some deeply ingrained sense of politeness kept her from slamming it, the way every instinct in her body should have screamed at her to. It was a mistake that would cost her more than she could have imagined. A boot came through the narrowing gap with so much force that the heavy oak door rebounded off it and nearly knocked her clean off her feet. There wasn't one man on the step anymore. There were 2. The second had been waiting just out of sight the entire time, dressed almost identically, hat and gloves and a snood pulled up to the bridge of his nose. The gloves were never about the cold. They were so neither of them would leave anything behind. The 2 men shut the door carefully behind themselves, almost gently, and then began screaming at her to get down on the floor. Hannah obeyed instantly. Whatever instinct tells a person to fight, had already been overridden by a far more primal one, the one that only wants the danger to be over as quickly as possible. When the man holding the clipboard knelt beside her and pressed the tip of his pen against her eye, the implication needed no explaining. "Tell us where the valuables are, or this stops being a pen." She told them everything. Jewelry in the master bedroom, electronics in the children's rooms. Every hiding place she knew from years of dusting around them surrendered in seconds. It worked exactly the way they wanted it to. They marched her upstairs, confiscated her phone, and locked her in the one room in the entire house without a landline, the bathroom, while they tore through the master bedroom and stuffed everything they could find into a child's school backpack. Tens of thousands of pounds in jewelry disappeared into that bag. And it still wasn't enough. They wanted to save. Not asked, demanded, in a way that suggested they already knew it existed. And it did exist, hidden behind a painting in the upstairs office, one of those old spinning combination models. Hannah knew it was there because she had polished the frame around it 100 times. She had absolutely no idea what the combination was. Why would she? She was the cleaner. They refused to believe her. The more she pleaded, the angrier they grew, until one of them stormed out of the room entirely. She heard his footsteps pounding up to the 3rd floor and back down again, fast and furious. When he returned, he was holding a cordless power drill, lifted straight from the father's office down the hall. There was no ambiguity left about what came next. Hannah swore on her own mother's life that she didn't know the code, said it again and again, dozens of times, until the words barely sounded like language anymore. It didn't matter. The man switched the drill on, let it whine and spin in the cold air of the bedroom, and pressed the tip flat against the side of her head. She couldn't speak after that, could only sob and shake her head with her eyes squeezed shut, certain in that exact moment that her life was about to end over a combination she had simply never been given. They didn't kill her. Killing her would have meant consequences neither of them was willing to risk. Instead, they hit her. Again and again. Less out of strategy, and more, it seems, out of sheer, frustrated fury at a fortune they couldn't reach. It would come out much later that the safe held almost nothing of real value. Passports, birth certificates, an old brooch that had belonged to someone's mother. None of it worth what they put her through trying to get to it. Eventually, one of them simply said, "Enough," and the violence stopped as suddenly as it had started. They took one last look around for anything else worth carrying, grabbed the backpack, and walked out the front door at a calm, unhurried pace, careful even then not to draw the attention of the neighbors on either side. Hannah stayed in that bathroom for several minutes after the front door clicked shut, unable to move, unable to fully understand that it was over. When she finally found a phone and dialed for help, the worst 20 minutes of her life were already behind her. What came after took considerably longer to survive. The physical injuries healed in a matter of weeks. Almost nothing else did. There were hospital visits and a brain scan, police interviews where she had to relive every second in precise clinical detail for people taking notes. Everyone kept asking if she was okay, and she always said yes, because that felt easier than explaining what it actually meant to lie awake replaying the exact pitch of a drill switching on beside her ear. She went back to work as soon as she physically could, not out of bravery, but because the alternative was sitting at home with nothing loud enough to drown the memory out. For almost a year, the two men who did this to her were nothing but ghosts. No names, no faces beyond a sliver of skin above a snood, no closure of any kind. And then, almost exactly a year later, two men were arrested after carrying out a nearly identical attack just 10 minutes away from that same house. The same fake utility excuse, the same coordinated entry, the same brutal, practiced efficiency. Neither of them was ever formally charged with what happened to Hannah. The case against them on her attack was never strong enough to make the connection that seemed obvious to everyone who heard those stories. But they went to prison for the other one. And on the worst nights, she has learned to let that be enough. She still keeps an unopened bottle of champagne sitting in the back of her fridge, waiting for news that may never actually come. But the night she learned those two men were finally behind bars was the first night in over a year that she slept all the way through without waking once. She no longer believes she could spot trouble before it found her. She knows now that trouble doesn't announce itself with a look, or a flicker behind the eyes, or a feeling low in your gut. Sometimes it just knocks, smiles, asks to read the meter, and waits patiently for you to open the door yourself. If this story stayed with you the way it has stayed with her, that's exactly the point of telling it. These aren't campfire legends dressed up to scare you. They're the quiet, ordinary mornings of real people, interrupted by someone who decided, on purpose, to become a monster. If you want more stories told this way, with the weight they actually deserve, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this one with someone who still believes danger always looks the part. It rarely does.